Hey Dimitris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Hi, Austin. Nice meeting you. Through
Likewise.
camera.
Yeah.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm very happy being here.
Thanks so much for your time, man. Um, I, as I like to do with all SEOs, I like to ask them how they became an SEO professional. So with that said, with your vast experience, I know I'm taking you back, but how did you become an SEO professional?
Yeah, yeah. So everything started like kind of I think 8 to 9 years ago when when I had my first job working as an editor on a news media website where I was kind of firstly introduced to the world of SEO, and I could optimize the news articles that I have been editing and publishing for the search engines. And yeah, I've seen that this was paying back, so I was seeing some of my articles being on the top spots of Google, getting some traction. And yeah, this really triggered me and made me research for more info regarding this. At
Hmm.
that time, it seems like an eternity before, like so many things have been changed,
Yeah.
dozens of algorithm updates,
Mhm.
and here we are, like.
So would you say you're more on page, off page, technical, analytical, all rounder?
I would consider myself as all arounder. Like one area that I'm not focusing that much compared to all the others is like the off page. But since I'm working in house purely, and I'm most time the go-to person for all things SEO. I'm handling everything, all aspects.
Mm.
But if I had to choose out of every time, I would go with the on page and the overall content side of SEO.
Mm. Now you have a vast amount of experience, and particularly in-house. And I saw on your LinkedIn you're one of the co-authors of the in-house SEO's guide. Um, no, am I getting the name wrong? It's the in-house,
So
no,
it's
Mastering In-House SEO.
yeah, that's the second edition of the book. Just to give you a sneak preview, we're gonna have a third edition coming soon. The name would be revised. It would be In-House SEO Success. It would be a standalone book. I'm also a co-author there, and yeah, we kind of follow the same pattern and the same context. Top leading SEOs from all around the world were sharing knowledge and hits and tips for people who struggle to do SEO in house.
Mm. Now, a lot of SEOs tend to have agency experience and they tend to stick with the agency side of things and may not necessarily know how things are in-house. So SEO agency side, for example, they'll have they're very good at creating strategies, creating recommendations, analyzing things. But from an in-house point of view, there's the other half, which is you have to implement all of these things. So what is it
Yeah.
like aiming to have, let's say, content implemented from an in-house point of view?
Well, I think it's the main challenge that everyone would face once they start and join a company is like to make sure that they kind of introduce themselves and try to make sure that the key stakeholders understand what SEO is, how it works, and if you go one step further, how it can contribute to the wide company KPIs. I think this is the most important part.
Mm,
Um, in most cases, there are like different pillars. The pillar of having nothing prior to your arrival. This could make things easy because you set the foundations and then you start building stuff. And then the second pillar, which is the more challenging, is when we join a company and an organization that they already have something. They already have their own, way of working, and then you need to, step in the middle and say, look, guys, these are the good things, these are the bad things. This is how we should do it in terms of SEO, and then, create the roadmap of the search engine optimization implementation inside the already agreed content production. But yeah, it's kind of the challenges that at the end, when once you get the payback, you feel very proud of.
Yeah, I bet. And let's say a company has invested in SEO, and the CMO is very keen on SEO. But of course, we SEOs know that investing in SEO is one thing. Managing SEO across the company is another thing. And a lot of the time that requires spreading the awareness of SEO so that it's at a very minimum people understand SEO and don't push back on SEO. And I find that needs to be carried out from an operational point of view as well as a business point of view. So the CMO, for example, at the very least understands SEO. But even with that, even with spreading the awareness of SEO, becoming an SEO evangelist has pushback to it. Because a CMO, for example, might say, well, I hired an SEO to do SEO. I don't need to know SEO. How do you go about combating that?
Yeah, nice question. So I think this is what I face mostly in general. I mean, and I think either it's a CMO or a VP of marketing or VP of growth or whatever. In most cases, people are not obligated to know all things around SEO or performance marketing or influencer marketing. So this is when you're coming in and you introduce yourself and you kind of take ownership of this medium, of its medium. So I would say at the end of the day, everyone wants to speak on their language, and their language is sales or installs or these very end goals and not very top of the funnel. But I would say what I have found, what I actually do, I have found through the past years to be working pretty good, is making sure that you have straightforward KPIs from the beginning. You make sure that they are challenging, but at the same time they're realistic, and you make them understand first that you can't go from A to Z without having the whole journey. You need to create a staged KPI approach where I tend to have it on a quarterly basis. So every quarter we have a one step further KPI, more mature. So we kind of building a roadmap where you start from the very basic and setting the foundation, then you move to something a bit further, a bit more mature, then more mature, and then goes on. Where at the end you need to have a KPI that is the main company KPI. So you present them something concrete from the beginning. And then the second is make them understand, this is the proper approach, and you can just, justify with all the work. Like, for example, if you start having on a business that hasn't invested before on SEO, maybe you could start with, look, we need to have a KPI around the top, the non-branded keywords on the first page for the, given market that we're targeting just for the quarter. This is the first step, the first stage. In order to do this, we need to, do the keyword research, optimize the website from a technical perspective, create relevant content based on the keywords that we have agreed. On the second quarter, we move to the next stage. That would be purely non-branded organic traffic. So this, the KPI that we had on the previous quarter, which was the non-branded keywords on the first page, will translate to organic traffic. Yeah. Then, next stage we'll have, conversions. And, at some point we also need to have, payback revenue and all this stuff. But you cannot move, from day one to, okay, let's do like this amount of revenue, because at the end of the day, this is not realistic. And for someone that is not an SEO savvy guy, which it's totally acceptable, and wants just to, like the CMO, they just want to present the goals of the marketing team to the CEO, to the executives team. So they just take your KPIs, your OKRs, they share it with them, and then you are accountable for those numbers. So if you haven't set up correctly, if you haven't justified why you picked them, why you picked this type of KPI, and why you picked this number, then end of the quarter you'll just end up saying like, oh yeah, I got screwed. And this is not the case you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I not so long ago, I think it was the start of the year, I had a podcast episode where I talked about having implementation rate as a metric for in-house SEOs. And in that post, I essentially talked about how when a company ventures in SEO, it takes them a long time. So from the moment they have their strategy, it then takes them a very long time, usually 6 months plus, before they can actually implement their SEO strategy. And that's because in-house, there is a lot of working with the different teams, trying to convince them, essentially trying to sell them on SEO and why the implementation that you're recommending needs to actually be implemented. And that goes all the way up to board members and then back down to on the operational level, if you like. And then once all of that is signed off, it's at that point that the actual implementation begins. And what I said was, if you're tracking the implementation rates, you can sort of like use that as a gauge to see how you're performing against competitors, because, never forget the element of competition, right? If you're struggling to implement your recommendations, your competitors may not be. What's your take on implementation and how long, just on average, it takes a brand to actually fulfill?
Yeah, I think it totally makes sense, and I would use the most common phrase in the SEO world. It depends. It depends on the brand. It depends on the organization. For example, when I have been working for Revolut, it was really every department had a really strict process of onboarding tools, vendors, anything. So this. It took me even almost 2 months to onboard Ahrefs and some other tools. So you could see that, at the end of the day, we spend so much time, with the legal department or other, stuff.
Yeah.
To just onboard some tools. To start doing our job. This made the whole implementation phase so long enough. Yeah. On the other side, when I joined Peanut or now Paired, the whole process is much faster. And this is mostly based on when you join a startup on the early stage. In general, things are very fast. So you just request some tools. Request some resources, and then unless this is something super expensive, and it needs to be passed by different teams and seniorities. In most cases, in the first week, you have everything you're going to need. Of course, this depends also on whether you have clear understanding and you have a clear plan in your head, what you will actually need. So I think this is also important, and I'll give an advice to people who join a company. At least make sure that they have a clear plan on their head regarding the tools. So it would be much easier for the marketing people or other departments to support them. So if you just join a company, or even before you join a company, like say, guys, it would be great if you have already onboarded, Ahrefs, Content King, and one or two tools in general just to help speed up the process would be great. So from day one, you have them, you can do the job. So and then it comes when I think definitely I would say first month is always a month of getting to know people, introduce yourself to people, introduce SEO, make them understand, create some basic guidelines. Either it's something completely new to the company, then you just create some playbooks regarding what is SEO, how it works, and all this stuff. Even if you SEO is not a new thing to the company, you still need to build your own foundations. Like for example, for Paired, there was already something. There wasn't anyone doing SEO before, but we have a content writer that is she's very familiar with SEO, and she gave some basic guidelines to the other writers just because she knew the basics. But once I jumped in, I had to revise everything. I had to build something more concrete and take ownership of SEO in general. I would say this will probably take around one month or two, and depending on how what's your experience. I would say you could also play smart. So in the meantime, while you're creating all this stuff, you could just try to find quick wins, which it's something that everyone loves. And if you say, like, for example, the second month, guys, we doubled our organic traffic and we did this. This always is good. It buys you time for the the long run.
There's something I think special, unique, different about SEO within digital teams, in that it's not the youngest digital channel. Social media is younger than SEO, right? But there's something about SEO that makes it very challenging for non-SEOs. It's almost as though because it has a reputation of being a dark art, black magic sort of thing, people shy away from SEO. And I think that's unfortunate because it's, I think, the most unique channel in a beautiful way. And if only non-SEOs embraced SEOs the way SEOs do, I think businesses can perform brilliant things with the channel. What do you think SEOs can do to help non-SEOs be familiar with SEO? Not necessarily to do SEO, but just to be comfortable, let's say, with SEO.
Well, I would say education. Make sure you educate people. You keep them informed about first the basics of SEO and how it works, but also updates. Like, I have found that is pretty useful for people that maybe they have a basic understanding of SEO to stay informed and in the loop. When a new broad algorithm update happens and is being released, it's good to inform the company, guys, in case you see any volatility on the rankings, or if you spot any differences, any major difference in the organic traffic, or on the conversions from the organic side or the web. We have a new algorithm update being released, and then given an explanation what is an algorithm, how it works, how long does it take. That is good not to do any major changes over the release period, just because you don't have the full data and what the actual outcome would be for your domain. And another thing is share wins. If you have some losses, you could also share with them. I mean, although it's never it's never good to have something negative to share on the Slack. It's better to be the one who's gonna share the low light, instead of just having someone who is not familiar with SEO, or someone who is not you, to share something concerning. It shows that you're on top of it. You're not afraid to take responsibility of you're owning the channel, so it's totally fine. You claim the wins, but also you need to take full responsibility for anything that may be problematic. So sharing data is always good, and also keeps people engaged. For example, developers is a huge category when it comes to technical SEO. Many of them don't understand. Many of them don't want to understand. They wrote the website. They don't want to change anything. They think it's perfect. So if you stumble upon a situation where you have this back and forths, and you create Jira tickets, and you say you need to fix this just because of that and that. If there's a win through this, if, for example, you fix some international SEO issues, and then you see a spike on the traffic, you see better rankings, share it, give appreciation and acknowledgement to the team. This could boost the confidence also of the team or the company to your face, just because it's just like we identified this issue, we did the roadmap, we had the roadmap for fixes, we fixed it, and now it's returning. So this is great. I think a way to
what I
make
always
them part of the.
What I always also find very effective as well is showing what competitors are doing. I think nothing gets a brand's attention
exactly
than showing their competitors and saying, I wanted to do this sort of thing. Our competitors are doing this. We need to really get on board with this, because if we don't, we're going to be left behind.
Totally with you on this. I have been doing it as well. When it comes, especially again, to developers, I'm also. This is kind of one of my main weapons in my arsenal. I tend to use examples of competitors, or even big brands. Like, for example, which startup doesn't want to become the next Uber or
exactly.
Facebook or whatever. So if you share some tactics that they have been using, and why we also need to follow this road, it's perfect. It persuades people that it's more difficult to be persuaded. So
yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's say I'm a CEO, right? And I'm hearing that SEO will take a lot of educational process in place. And I'm thinking to myself, why don't I just stick with PPC? Why do I have to use SEO? How do you combat that?
Well, I would say this is a completely, these are like two completely ways of acquiring users. A lot of people, I wouldn't use the word free because there's this, misunderstanding. People think that, SEO is a free channel. It's not a free channel. It costs money when, you have a freelancer or a consultant working with you, or an in-house person, or even a team. It has a cost in terms of the tools you're using, in terms of anything that you need in order to give a result. However, in most cases, the cost is significantly lower compared to the paid, while at the same time you don't have you don't have the fear of if something goes wrong and there's a problem with your credit card. I'm not saying you don't have the budget. I'm saying your credit card expires, or you don't have enough balance at this prepaid one. Your ads are stopping. Everyone is getting crazy. While with SEO, it takes more time, and you need to be consistent and persistent. You need to, I'm always saying it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you need to keep up doing the job, keep up updating your content, analyze your competition, because, every time, just like the ads, more and more competitors are coming up. But it's, if you do it right, it's evergreen content, and you could get something, giving you back for long enough without, having to, pay incredible costs for ads. Although I would also use that, over the past few years, the ad expenses have been, dramatically increasing. At the same time, also the competition in SEO increases, just because brands are kind of shifting and try to, create a balance between, paid spend and organic acquisition. So having a healthy balance, having multiple ways of acquiring users is a healthy point of view. So, yeah, I would say it's something different. You could use it, and my recommendation is having both and ensuring that you're not relying heavily on any of these.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, that's, again, the beauty of SEO, as we've been talking about, or the uniqueness of it. It's a marketing channel, and not just a marketing channel as well. I always say, as long as you have a website and you want your website to acquire users, you need SEO. Even sites like media-based sites, The Guardian, The Telegraph, The Times, etc., who have hidden most of their content from organic search, they still rely on organic search, right? They don't block it completely. And that just goes to show the value that SEO brings to a site. And having worked both client side and agency side, one of the things I notice with a lot of brands is that they may invest in SEO, they use it for some time, but then they think it's a good idea to sort of like scale it down or turn it off, sort of thing. And then something happens, like an algorithm update or something like that happens, and they're hit by this algorithm updates, and then they see a regression in their SEO. And then they have to scramble to try to have their SEO fixed, thinking it'll take, so it can be fixed just like that, like PPC, turning it on and off. How do you think, or what would you say to clients?
Imagine. Sorry to interrupt you, but
go ahead.
This is also, imagine that even with the paid one, in some cases, there is this learning curve where, if you pause the campaigns for some reasons, either it's Google or Facebook or even TikTok, I don't know, they require again some time for learning. So even if you, let's say, pause your campaign, say like, we're pausing for a week and then we're going to continue, then you also have, of course, a shorter period of time compared to SEO, but still, even for paid, you need to have a learning time frame. So even now with paid, you still have to wait a bit. So the AI they're using better understands the needs and the audience.
Yeah, definitely. So what would you say to a brand who they've regressed in SEO and they've been hit by an algorithm update, let's say, and you want to ensure that it doesn't happen to them again, i.e. they don't turn their SEO off? How can they prevent their SEO from worsening by something that they have done?
Well, I think this is a very sensitive topic. I would, first of all, I'll try to identify the reason behind this, right? When I was at Peanut, at some point, we were kind of hit by an algorithm update. It wasn't a penalty; it was just ourselves trying to improve the conversion rate. But in the meantime, this had a negative impact on the core web vitals. So we were, not passing. And through the last algorithm at that point, we've seen a decrease. It wasn't a dramatic decrease, but still we saw around 20% down, while we had, a very positive trend line, growing week over week or month over month with a very good rate. We hit a plateau, and then after a week or so, we started decreasing. Then the way I approach it would be the way that I would approach for any case. It's like first deep dive and understand, what's the nature of this penalty or this decrease, or why Google don't like us anymore. And having specific time and dates of what we have implemented, either it's technical or content or backlinking, and when this downtrend started and all this stuff. It's critical. And then once you have the full picture, then you start creating an action plan, making sure that people should understand that this is not something that is going to change from day one. Even if you do everything, you need to be patient. You need to keep up doing the good job. Of course, fix all the bad things that have caused these issues or penalties, and then keep up doing this job, and waiting for a next algorithm update or so, like for Peanut, as an example. When people were asking me how long it would take to get back the traffic that we have lost, and revert this downtrend, I told them it could be 2 weeks, but it could be also like 10 months. It totally depends on the next algorithm, and the only thing that we need to do is ensure that first we fix everything, and secondly we're staying ahead, and we're making sure that we build a procedure where we can avoid any future issues that will lead to this penalty or whatever you would say.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's always a case of when something happens to a brand site, it can be one of three things from an overall point of view: something that their competitors have done, which is worse in their case, an algorithm update or release of some sort. And the third one is something that is completely within the brand's control, which is something that's happened internally, i.e. someone internally has done something to the site which has made it worsen. And it's usually a case of it's a non-SEO person who inadvertently did something. Let's say, I don't know, they no-indexed the site, for example, which I've seen happen before. But let's say something like that happened, right? And then an SEO wouldn't necessarily know until after the fact, right? After something has happened to the site, i.e. they see it on Search Console, and then they go investigating to find what the issues are. So I always say you pretty much have to look at SEO or optimizing the site almost in two levels. One level is optimizing the site itself, and then the second level, which is probably more important, is ensuring that whatever issue there is internally is resolved. And that involves as you mentioned earlier, the educational process, right? And it's an ongoing thing. It can never be something that just happens once. It has to be continually something that's carried out month in, month out. Otherwise, the issue will occur again. Most likely will occur again. Let's say the creative team, content team, someone within the content team leaves, we have a new person, and this person isn't aware of, one, it's not very aware of SEO, and two, is not aware of SEO within the company, so the company's SEO status. And those two things right there could just be a recipe for disaster, because simple issues which shouldn't be occurring can all of a sudden become a problem. So how do you go about telling, let's say, a CEO that you have SEO in place, but the educational process needs to continually take place? Otherwise, you can easily regress in your SEO.
Yeah, I'm kind of very conscious every time, a new joiner comes. First of all, when it comes to SEO and the content that is being created for this purpose, I mean, you could say, SEO content, but I'm hearing a lot of people saying, you shouldn't use SEO content. I would use content that is being created from, because of SEO, and I mean because of the keyword research that we have done.
Got you. Yeah.
Because otherwise it wouldn't be there. But it's content that can be used in multiple ways. So it's not just for SEO purposes, but it's being created from SEO. So I would say I'm always in favor of working with people that they have a basic understanding. I'm not saying that content writers that don't understand SEO are not good writers. They may be excellent writers, but in terms of creating content that is purely for this type of purposes, you need to have someone who has been there, done that.
Yeah.
So I'm always working with these people. So I'm kind of cutting this, big learning curve of, what is SEO, how it works, these are the best practices and stuff. And then while someone joins, it's just, a period of me making sure that they get everything that they need in order to keep up doing their job. And the most crucial part of it is for me, the SEO brief. So apart from the basic knowledge, I'm always, approaching its keyword individually. I create an SEO brief, and this is, even if you are a new, joiner and you're not used on how we want things to work, you still have a very good, a very good picture of, how we want the text to be structured, what keywords should be there, what questions, what are the competitors, how they approach it, how we want to approach. So I'm giving a lot of info proactively. So it requires less time for the person, either it's new or a veteran, to understand what we want from this, what we want this article look like, and there, let's say, input from an SEO perspective.
Interesting. Yeah, the educational piece for me, the awareness of SEO, that's something that's like a channel that's always on. This is something that needs to be an always on activity, SEO awareness within a company. And I think the more brands are aware of this, the better their state of SEO will be. And I'm seeing a lot more brands these days, one, taking their SEO training or awareness agenda as a priority. And I'm also seeing brands are now having an SEO who is almost who is a project manager. So literally their title is SEO project manager, and they go about working with different departments that all have a touch point with the website to evangelize SEO. So as a very basis, the awareness of SEO is at a certain level across businesses, and I think across the business. And I think the more businesses do this, the better off they will be. Now, content. Everyone has their own view of what content is, right? And e-commerce sites, for example, a CMO will look at a page, let's say PLP, and they will say a product listings page, and they will say everything on that page is content. We don't need, 400 pieces of words to be content. The entire page is content, right? With just a bit of text and images. Others will say, no, content is words. You need 750 word article on each page for it to be content. What do you consider content?
Well, I would say that we need to go beyond of we need to have X amount of words or this type of stuff. I would say that creating something that you're feeling really confident that the searcher won't bounce. It fully answers the intent.
Yeah.
This is why I'm also again working on each keyword individually, because I tend to have this this thing or in terms of like, okay, here's the keyword, here's the competition, what it does, how we should approach it. Here are some keywords that we need to include. Here are like some proposals as questions, link to these internal pages as well. So creating this full picture, it definitely ensures that we have a really good content. So if for example we have I'm using a lot this example recently. So if we have a keyword that it mostly has a listicle format, and you have, let's say, X tips for building a better relationship, and the top results have 30, 40, and 25, and we start working the article, it's perfect, but it has like 5 or 4 tips. From even the first touch point, you're just starting from behind, because even if you are a searcher and you don't know the brand, and you just stumble upon the top 4 results, and this is my opinion, but I'm pretty sure that this is happening to most people. Even if we're, let's say, the first result, you will always feel intrigued by the second or the third that have like 3, 5, 10 times more the tips that you're offering. So, they will bounce back. So as long as you make sure that you have this keyword and you fully cover the intent, you fully cover this keyword, and the searcher won't bounce and say like, okay, it's not very accurate, I want something else, something is missing, but at the end, what's the solution, what's the answer? In some cases, we always have faced this, we were searching for something, pop up something on the first as a first result, and then we ended up and say like, okay, but I haven't found what I'm looking for. So as long as we focus on the user and not the search engines, I'm pretty sure that we will succeed, no matter how many words are they, or no matter, if we have like 5 pictures or no pictures. I would say that smart things could definitely become a differentiating factor. For example, even if we go on the other side, creating a 5,000 words article, it's huge, man. Like if you scroll down with your iPhone and you start reading 5,000 words, you will spend, 10, 15 minutes of your life. It's too much. It's too much. So why don't you just add a key takeaways table? At the middle or right after the intro paragraph. 5 bullets, 200 words. Here's what you're gonna the key takeaways from this article, answering the main query. And if someone wants to have a specific want something more specific, they can deep dive, but you're offering the choice of not reading everything. You can have a table of content. You could have a lot of things that can make the user's life easier. I think this is the factor that could make the real difference.
I completely agree. I think the whole rhetoric around articles and the number of words of articles, it got out of hand from SEOs because I remember it started from like 200 or 300 and then got to 400 and then 750 word articles, and it's like that's missing the point. The point is, are you answering the user intent behind what you're serving? And I think people who focus on content being text on a page, they spend too much time on SEO, thinking SEO is for the search engine. And it's almost as though their goal is to manipulate the search engine rather than, as you mentioned earlier, to focus on the user, not search engine. And I find that good SEO is one that you can tell that, okay, they have SEO in place, but primarily they're focusing on their users. And you can tell just by looking at a page whether or not they consider their users or not. And user experience now is even a bigger issue than ever before. If something is not a good user experience on mobile especially, it will affect the site, and not just the page, the entire site.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that there. Let's switch to Twitter real quick. Twitter, it's been in the news of recent times, and it has an indirect effect to SEO, because right now the entire plan with Twitter so far is to essentially subscribe to the blue check mark. So you pay a monthly fee for that and you can have a blue check mark. And on one hand, that is, I see the benefit of it, but I'm thinking of the search implications of that. Because I'm thinking, well, if you're essentially paying for the blue check mark and Google is listing profiles or tweets on Google search, will they be leaning more towards people who have a blue check mark and disconsidering others who do not have a blue check mark, and almost using that as a form of credibility and authority to decide whether or not to include tweets within search. Firstly, do you think Twitter will ever go away?
To be honest, like I don't believe so. I think it's a very powerful, social media where, nobody would like, to be vanished. So even if it fails in the hands of Elon Musk, I'm pretty sure that someone else, in consortium or someone, individual, would, jump and save it. There's definitely, I think at the moment it's just a lot of things happening. Like it's getting a lot of awareness, a lot of people talking about it. Just like on every business that Elon Musk is is working with, but I think they need to tackle a few things, like making sure that they have profitability, or at least they're not bleeding money. Making sure that they have a better control on the hate speeds, on the bots, fake accounts, and this type of stuff. The blue mark at the beginning may sound like a good solution, but I think in the middle of the road it was like problematic the way it was communicated or implemented, because there was an example. I was reading an example last week or last 2 weeks for one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies that have been seeing someone taking a blue mark for their own account, tweeting about being the insulin for free, for free, and losing some billions in just a few hours on their stock, which is imagine, it's huge. Like someone claiming that is one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies, tweeting about from now on insulin is free, we're doing great things to humanity, and then the stock is plummeting to 50% down, which translates to some billions of dollars in lost revenue. So this is huge, and this definitely affects the credibility. So even from my side, when I see a blue checker, I say like, this has to be someone well known, or had a lot of followers, this type of stuff, because this is what I'm used before, or what I'm used from other social media. And in some cases, maybe it's someone who just paid the subscription. So I think it needs to be addressed on this, on the way it works at the moment. And I think this has been a bit paused, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I can imagine folks at Google just kind of going through all sorts of scenarios and making a plan of what they'll do, because I think that it's something that can massively impact them. And if it's going to impact the credibility of search, will Google decide to use another service to replace Twitter? Let's say Mastodon, for example, or maybe even LinkedIn. I doubt LinkedIn, but maybe LinkedIn. It's going to be I think the next 2 years will be very interesting, because right now everything is just being destabilized. You have Twitter, you have TikTok, which people are saying is a threat to Google. I don't think is a big threat, but it's something that if I were Google, I'd be paying attention to it, because with TikTok, the threat to Google is people saying, having reports saying that Gen Alpha, the new generation of search users, tends to use TikTok as their search basis rather than Google search, which I find very, very fascinating. I'm not quite sure how that would go about changing Google search, but if I were Google, I'd be very interested to see why that is happening. And perhaps maybe it's a case of video is like people prefer video as the default type of content now. So more videos need to be shown in search to sort of like influence people to want to use Google search. But it's everything just seems up in the air right now. And I find it very, very fascinating.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of movement on this space. I was reading something pretty interesting that a lot of people are very selective on what they read, or at least companies are pretty good at hiding stuff. You mentioned TikTok. I was reading somewhere that on LinkedIn that they were pretty down to their projections in terms of growth for this year. So they were expecting a lot more growth that didn't come. Definitely the talk of the town. Definitely it's here and it's gonna stay. It's not going anywhere. But I think there has been a hype regarding TikTok that would in the next few months or years will just decrease, from my personal opinion. And at the same time, Apple said that they're like around 4 years before they even released their search engine. So it's good. I'm pretty sure that big companies like Google are taking into consideration the competition. It's a huge pie, and more companies want to take a slice of it. But again, I'm looking this even from an App Store optimization perspective. I'm seeing that their algorithms are not that sophisticated, and how they can be, because of like they're very early stage, like 5, 6, 7 years old. Google, RankBrain, everything is like it's huge, and I think we need to be definitely have our eyes and ears open regarding to new things coming out, but at the same time we need to not feeling super impressed and super intrigued by the buzzwords like I have been hearing for voice search over like a decade or so.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not it's not happening. I'm just saying it's not voice search who conquered the Google search, and people like these buzzwords, but at the end we need to work on the topics and subjects that they actually are very
stick to aim to serve end users.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally agree. So you've seen a lot of SEOs come up and grow. What would you say to someone who's interested in SEO? What would you say they should? What would you say they should do to become an SEO professional?
I would say that they need to close their ears when it comes to listening to these buzzwords. Try to focus on the basic stuff. There's so many good guides on the internet. There are so many tools that they offer, free courses. So start with a free course, get the basic stuff, understand, what SEO is, how it works. Don't feel, bad if they have to pay a bit, like there are some, for example, technical SEO classes and courses that, they are paid and they're not for free, but don't feel, bad paying a small amount of money. They will definitely see a return in the next years working, as an in-house or an agency, or even, as an independent consultant. And then trial and error. I'm not saying, making mistakes, but, it's inevitable to make mistakes as long as you work. So start moving from, reading to actually implementing. And, even if they have a side project, even if it's small, even if it's not, a huge website getting, thousands or millions of clicks on a monthly basis, it's still something that could make them learn and understand better, how it works, what it works and what doesn't, and, getting their hands dirty is the only way to, learn SEO.
Yeah, I agree. It's the experience, gaining experience by doing is key. Dimitris, thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you online?
Thanks so much for having me here. I think we could talk for ages.
Yeah,
Definitely. The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn. I have a personal website that I haven't updated for ages. This is also probably my New Year's resolution. Let's see. And on Twitter, I'm also spending some time there as well.
Brilliant. I will have those links in place, and hopefully Twitter will still be around come the new year.
Yeah, it would be. Trust me. Cool.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dimitris. Have a good evening, and we'll catch up again another time.
Yeah, you too. Have a great weekend ahead. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye now.